Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? Well, it's great to be back at Purdue, but it's especially great to be back at Krannert. At lunch, I was able to sit next to. It's just fantastic to see some of the staff and even from some of the former students that I used to go to school with. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to talk a little bit about my perspective. I am one of the supply management managers at John Deere's Construction and Forestry Division. I work out of the Dubuque, Iowa factory, and I work with John Deere's important joint venture partners. Today we import over $100 million worth of aftermarket parts to support our customer base in North and South America. My agenda this afternoon is simply just two topics, and these topics are global trends and applied technology. First, I'd like to overview some changing trends in the global economy and the global construction industry. We'll see how these trends are creating opportunities and threats for global companies like John Deere. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about, briefly about applying technology. Technology is really fun and it's really exciting to discuss and dream about. But the key to creating a competitive advantage is figuring out a way to apply technology. And I would like to share a few examples about how we are applying technology at John Deere. And then finally, I'm going to try to bring these two topics together by showing you how they are interconnected. Before we begin, though, I'd like to just talk a minute or two about John Deere so you can see a little bit about what the company is about. We're a 163-year-old publicly held company. And you can see also that we are a world leader in agricultural, forestry, construction, lawn and turf care, landscape and irrigation products. And we are also a leading worldwide manufacturer of off-highway diesel engines. We are also one of the largest equipment finance companies in the U.S. And then we have some real interesting new divisions within our group, and those include the John Deere Intelligent Solutions Group, Landscapes, and the John Deere Water Technologies. For the first 9 months this year, our sales were $18.8 billion. And you can see that I have circled in there construction and forestry. That's our second largest sales come from that division. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of my discussion today will be about our construction and forestry division. John Deere does business around the world. We have more than 100 manufacturing and sales locations in 28 countries. We have about approximately 56,000 employees. But within the construction and forestry division, most of our customers are still from the North American area. And this is actually true for some of our traditional competitors. So now I'd like to overview some of the changing trends in the world economy and how they are creating opportunities and threats. The world is becoming more interconnected, and emerging countries are playing an important role in world trade flows. This slide shows the inter-regional trade flows in 1990. Note the number and size of the various lines that depict the amount of trade in US dollars. The largest line on this slide shows a range of less than $500 billion. The total interregional trade is $3.3 trillion. The orange bubbles, they're also significant as they show the percent of the region's participation in the global trade flows. For example, in 1990, the U.S. had about 1/4 of the world's trade, and Asia, Southeast Asia in particular, had about 13%. Now let's fast forward 17 years, and this is what things look like in 2007. You'll notice first that the interregional trade has grown from $3.3 trillion to $16.3 trillion. You'll also see that there now are many more lines or trade relationships, and now a handful of trade flows that are over $500 billion. And then with the orange bubbles, you should see that we've seen some redistribution. The U.S. has dropped from 25% to 13%, and Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe have really increased greatly. Well, this is 2007, and we all know what happened the last couple of years. But even with that, we can kind of begin to think about what's going to happen in the year 2020. And I think one thing we can imagine is that this spaghetti chart is going to continue to grow, and it's going to look even different in those future years. And even more importantly, we really believe that not only are the trade flows going to grow, but they're going to become more interconnected. I think this is probably one of the more interesting slides. Economists are predicting that in 2020, the top 6 emerging countries will account for more GDP than the growth of the top 6 developed economies. So as the chart on the left demonstrates, in 2020, the top 6 developed countries will account for $6.8 trillion in GDP growth, with the U.S. still contributing the majority of that. On the graph on the right side, you can see that the top 6 emerging countries are contributing $8 trillion in GDP growth. This is going to be the first time in history that the top 6 emerging countries will be contributing more GDP growth in absolute dollars than the developed countries. And then, of course, you can also notice that China is going to be playing a lead role in that growth story. So what does this mean for global companies like John Deere? Well, the world is becoming more interconnected. We have increasing and new trade flows. And Asia is going to be the largest and fastest growing economy. We all know that. And China and India are really going to present some great opportunities for everyone. So we feel like this is a very exciting time to be in the global business. But we also realize that there's going to be new competition for us. And that will be with emerging and strengthening as the economies grow. So I'd like to now shift a little bit and talk specifically about what's happening in China, and especially in terms of China's construction industry. This chart here shows where the future growth in the construction industry will be. And as you can see on the left slide, China will be the largest construction market in 2020. And the chart on the right side indicates that the majority of the growth in the China construction industry will happen in the next decade. So what is driving the growth in China? Well, it's infrastructure investment. And just to give you a few percentages that we are anticipating and hearing about, we expect rail to be increasing about 54% in China. The number of airports will grow by about 61%. China will increase their highway system by 85%, and they're going to be increasing their seaport capacity by over 153%. So this is really the time to be in China, and the time for us to be looking at that market and actually participating in that market. So for John Deere, obviously China needs construction equipment to support their expanding infrastructure. And as you can see on this chart, however, China's construction equipment industry is not only producing for their domestic market, but they are also increasing their exports by serving customers around the world. So today, in fact, nearly 30% of all global construction equipment units are produced in China. And using wheel loaders as an example, and that's the top one on that slide, you can see that between 2005 and 2008, their exports for loaders increased from 2,800 units, roughly, to almost 18,000 units. And then if you exclude China's domestic market volumes, China's loader exports represent 16% of the world's market. So what does this mean for global companies like John Deere? Well, emerging markets present tremendous growth opportunities and growth that's occurring now. New competitors are forming, and in order to capitalize on this growth. And then finally, this is forcing global companies to shift their focus from traditional markets and traditional competitors to new markets with different customers with different needs. And I think you can find the same type of phenomena with other industries as well. So, How are U.S. companies like Deere responding? Well, here's some of the options, and some of these are very typical responses that companies can take. One, you can continue to produce domestically and export your products overseas. Secondly, you can establish and grow joint ventures with other companies. Third, you can acquire other companies located in these growth regions. Or fourth, you can expand your own operations into those regions. I think each of these options come with inherent risks, and they really come also with some unique opportunities. You want to take careful and deliberate evaluation when you make these assessments and make these decisions about what you want to do. But really also, the time is to act now, as we've seen on those previous slides. So what is Deere doing? We have and are using a combination of these approaches. And these are just some recent examples in the last couple years of some of the actions that the CNF division has taken in the world. Maybe just look at a couple of the slides here real quick on here. For example, we do export products from the United States into countries like Brazil, and most recently we also sold some products into Thailand. We've formed a couple of joint ventures in the last couple of years with companies in India and China. And also we've actually set up some assembly operations or new manufacturing locations in places such as Russia. And then also we are establishing new branches for sales and marketing in areas such as Africa. But how else are U.S. companies like Deere responding? And this is where I like Mike's talk. For Deere, we believe that the future of manufacturing can be in the United States, and we are looking at technology as one of those responses. Deere develops and employs technology throughout the company. In fact, Deere believes it must apply technology to create a competitive advantage. We believe we create competitive advantage because we can enhance the quality of our products, produce components and equipment much more efficiently, and we can serve our customers more accurately and more quickly. So I'm just going to show you some examples of how we are applying technology at John Deere. Okay, this first example talks a little bit about robotics. Throughout Deere, we utilize literally hundreds of robots in production. The vast majority of robotics are dedicated to weld technology and weld applications. But we also use those for painting, material handling, and for metal cutting operations. Our welding applications can be very challenging because of the complexity of our product structures, our wide array of product models, weld joint access, and really our demanding product quality requirements. Many of our large weldments also have a very high weld content. For example, like on our backhoe frame, it has over 4.1 miles of welding wire. And see, this is where our product quality is really differentiated. If we have as little as half an inch of that 4.1 miles not welded correctly, it can create a defect on our product. Now just switching gears a little bit and looking at assembly processes. In our new products, we do extensive planning for our assembly operations. We build the units virtually using a software package called VisMockup, and that enables us to assemble every bolt, washer, bracket, door, weldment, everything from start to finish. We literally build a machine virtually, again, from start to finish, just as we would in physical production. And this enables us to identify identify any design interferences that we might have, tool access limitations, mistake proofing requirements, and even establish the specific sequence of how we're going to build the product. One key feature of our VisMockup tool is the ability to include a human figure alongside the vehicle model. This human figure can be adjusted to reflect the expected postures that a worker would take as they're manufacturing the product. And from these various postures, we can make assessments of visibility, access, and reach. These assessments may then lead to changes in how we design the product, and it also helps us to understand how to minimize employee exposure due to ergonomic risk factors. One of the technologies that we highly leverage in our production operations is manufacturing execution systems. We call it simply MES. MES systems in our assembly operations consist of a touchscreen monitor, and this serves as an interface between all of our product technical data, our customer machine order information, and our integrated assembly tools. MES systems enable us to leverage much of the upstream engineering 3D data that we have, as well as the production downstream operations that are executed on a daily basis. So we feel that there's just nearly dozens of benefits from using tools like MES and by deploying technologies like this. Another type of a tool that we use in our assembly operations are what we call smart tools. Smart tools are a new generation of assembly tools, and they help to verify process steps are being completed correctly. We use these smart tools to provide feedback verification with pneumatic air qualifiers, DC electric signals, and even FM radio signal connections. Each of these tools provide feedback to the MES systems to verify that the correct torque levels were achieved. This increased level of technology in our production systems further enables us to improve the quality of our product that leaves our factories and ships to other customers around the globe. And then finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about applying technology from a customer perspective. Deere's customer support is all about enhancing the customer experience. And one of the ways that we are doing that is by linking the customer, the dealer, and the factory on a real-time basis at the worksite. By using telematics, we can turn a whole bunch of data into useful information. For example, we can provide the customer with information on where their equipment is. We can also collect information about machine performance and provide recommendations on how to improve that performance and utilization. We can also monitor the machine's health, and we can develop specific maintenance requirements or recommendations for a customer's unique applications. At the factory where I work, there was so much excitement about this technology that we created this bumper sticker. I kind of like that one. So to close my presentation, I just want to leave with a few comments. Industries like the construction industry must determine how they are going to react to globalization, as it really does present opportunities and threats. Deere's Construction and Forestry Division is deploying a global strategy that reflects what we believe is necessary to be successful in specific countries or regions of the world. And one of our competitive advantages is applying a technology. And then one final comment. The global economy continues to evolve very rapidly, and companies must continually adapt to changing conditions, and slow movers are going to lose out. Or as what Sam Allen, our CEO, and he's also one of our former Krannert students, he would say, talk is cheap, but what are you doing about it? Thank you.